In this video, we aren't going to take a tour down a specific trail. Instead, we're going to talk about winter riding in the Pacific Northwest. There are a large number of mountain bikers who say that riding trails during the winter months should be avoided, especially if the trails are wet to any sort of degree. While this is true of many places around the world, it does not hold true at all to the trails here. The Pacific Northwest has a reputation of having an incredibly wet climate, something that most of us are quite proud of. The joke is often made that we advertise the rain in order to keep people away from our spectacular summers. While it is true the summer months are some of the best in North America, we contrast that with 7 to 9 months of significant moisture, cold temperatures, and very short days. That means those of us who really enjoy mountain biking would have a limited amount of time to enjoy our sport, and with the cost of bikes and gear these days, that seems unsavory. So we ride year-round, regardless if it is a beautiful sunny day or 38 degrees and raining. Our trail builders, specifically Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance in this area, do spectacular work. Our trails are actually designed to be ridden in the wet. They have built-in drainage, the sides are supported to avoid trail and hill erosion, and they get regular work from both volunteer and state agencies. When the weather gets wet, some slightly different riding techniques are needed. Staying light on the front wheel and tires in general. Unweight your wheels before going over wet roots will decrease your chances of sliding and losing control. Slamming into roots like a monster truck can and will cause sliding and loss of traction. Remember to brake on the dirt rather than rocks or roots. Control your speed before the upcoming features, because likely in the middle of the feature you will not have the ability to brake, and doing so will cause significant loss of traction. Be ready for your tires to slide. Don't lock up your wheels, as you only have control while your wheels are spinning. I also recommend running a lower tire pressure. I tend to run 2 to 3 psi less in my tires in the winter than in the summer for increased traction. Bring a decent riding light with you on any ride that you think will go into the afternoon. If I go out on a ride any time that will bring me past 12 to 1 p.m., I bring a set of lights with me. Getting caught in the dark is no big deal if you're still able to see. Within an hour of Seattle are a number of amazing trail systems. Trail systems vary on how good they are during the winter, some being much better than others. Here are a few of my top picks for winter riding. Number 1 is Port Gamble Heritage Park, located on the Olympic Peninsula. Port Gamble is a newer trail system that has a fair mix of both flow, tech, jump, DH, and XC. It is low elevation so seldom gets snow and has some of the best dirt for wet riding I have ever seen. Number 2, Tolko Bike Trails, just north of I-90. You do need to buy a use permit from the landowner, but they have some very fun old school trails. The trail system is in a rain shadow, so it gets less rain than the surrounding trails and has some amazing dirt. Number 3, Black Diamond Green Space, a decent sized trail network that is well below the snow line the vast majority of the year. Mostly XC trails, but it does have a number of flowy trails as well as jumps ranging from small tables up to massive gap jumps. Next is Duthie Hill, another lower trail system below the snow line. It has a mix of every kind of trail and has a nice skills area for riders of all skill levels. Tiger Mountain is my overall favorite riding in the area. Unfortunately, due to its higher elevation, it is one of the first places to get snow during the winter and the last to lose it. But as long as the weather is warm enough to keep snow off, the trails are phenomenal. Some other local areas are a little less desirable in my opinion. They will either have snow more of the year, or the dirt is a little bit worse when it gets very wet. Raging River is one of those such places. While normally one of the best places to ride in the area and right across the highway from Tiger Mountain, it is known for occasional peanut butter type dirt. And while it still is usually quite good when wet, it just isn't quite as good as some of the other places. Overall, you will never not be able to find a good place to ride during our winter months. I will admit that most years my riding decreases during the winter, from 5 to 6 rides a week during the summer, down to only 1 to 2 rides a week in the winter. This winter I bought a few things to help increase that and improve my comfort during cold days. Please watch my outbound lighting videos for more information on my lights. These 3 products have been game changers for me. First have been my tires, Specialized Butcher Gravity T9s. I've been running these on my Enduro all winter. They have decent rolling resistance, insanely sticky rubber on wet roots and rocks, good traction in the mud, and yet they still clear mud very quickly. For the price, they do a really good job at performing just as well as my Maxxis Assegai I'm running on my stump jumper. Next are my 510 Trailcross Gore-Tex. They're waterproof platform shoes that are actually waterproof. They fit true to size and are actually very comfortable, just like every other pair of 510 shoes I've had. They also have very stiff soles that are good for all day pedaling, and they stay pretty warm so I don't need to wear winter socks underneath. These were complete game changers for me on wet days. Last but not least are my 100% Brisker gloves. While not entirely waterproof, they are water resistant and very warm, while still being very light and having decent tactile function in the fingers. My only complaint with these gloves was the Velcro on the left glove wrist broke after the first ride. While riding, it's not noticeable, but for a high-end glove, this was somewhat irritating. Buying new gear can be intimidating, especially with the cost of some name brand items, but I encourage you to still give it a shot. I used to ride year-round in shorts and normal canvas 510 freeriders. This made any wet riding a miserable, soggy slogfest. With this new gear, it has made riding in nasty weather actually enjoyable. And while all the items in this video have been big name brand items, I still bring with me a relatively cheap but nice waterproof jacket and a cheap pair of water resistant riding pants that I bought on Amazon. Both have worked really well in all kinds of wet and cold riding conditions, so not everything has to be expensive name brand items. The last thing I want to talk about is an important aspect of winter riding, and that's keeping your gear clean. Keep your suspension seals, your drivetrain, and your suspension linkage clean between rides. Don't pressure wash your bike. I recommend using a light soap or bike spray, a soft bristle brush, and soft water after every muddy ride. This will just extend the life of your bike and equipment. Once everything is clean, remember to lube your chain, your drivetrain, and your linkage, as well as your seals with appropriate wet weather lube intended for those specific purposes. This will decrease rust and allow you to get the most life out of your equipment. I think winter riding is a staple of culture in the Pacific Northwest, not only for locals, but for those looking to visit and see what we have. I hope this helped you understand why people still ride even in the wet and cold weather. Now get out and enjoy the ride. Thanks for watching. Please click subscribe to join me for trail tours, gear reviews, and tips for riding in the Pacific Northwest.